Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm down here at BMW UK's headquarters in Farnborough, and I'm here because I'm looking at this gorgeous M2 Competition parked behind me. This isn't your regular M2 Competition. This is a car that's been kitted out with pretty much all of the M performance accessories. I actually spotted this car in a BMW showroom a few months ago, contacted BMW UK, and it actually belongs to them. It's kind of like their showcase car. They very kindly said I could borrow it for a day, so here I am. It looks like it's about to rain, so I'm going to rush this intro. We're going to do a quick walk around of the car and have a look at all the accessories on the outside. Then there's a few on the inside, and then we might as well take it out for a quick spin because it's got a full tank of fuel. So it's a BMW M2 Competition. It's a 2019 model. It is in Hockenheim silver, just like my car, but this one is a DCT equipped car. Otherwise, option-wise, it's very similar to mine. But that's kind of where it stops because this car has got a lot of accessories thrown at it. Firstly, I can see a gorgeous carbon fibre front splitter with side blades. Then we have a lovely carbon fibre surround on the BMW grille. My favourite wheels that my BMW Adventures has got on his car. Car Craze Fools got on his M2 Competition as well. I would have these wheels if I could afford them because I just think they look so good. They look OEM, but they look very special. I absolutely love them. And also strong connection between these and an M3 and an M4 CS. So they look stunning, and they are clad with Michelin's fantastic, maybe not so fantastic this time of year with wet ground, Pilot Sport Cup 2 tyres that I absolutely love. So hopefully we'll try and get some heat into those a bit later in the video. Moving back, we've got carbon fibre side blades, a bit like I've got on my M2 Competition. We've got carbon fibre wing mirror caps. We've got a carbon fibre bonnet. Yes, that is really, really special. And in fact, let's pop that open now so you can have a look because it is something else. Look at that, look at the detailing, and it weighs absolutely nothing. It's lovely. And you can actually have this sprayed how you want. So you can have it all body color, you can have it all raw carbon with just a lacquer on top. You can have it like this, a bit of both. And I really think that's stunning. Personally, I'd kind of like it as a full carbon, you know, clear carbon with a lacquer on top, but really, really nice. And obviously that's actually benefiting performance because it's quite a lot lighter than your regular bonnet. Moving along the side of the car, we've got the side blades here, which are carbon fibre as well. Obviously, stunning wheels again. And then around the back, well, this is a bit controversial because that's not really me, as many of you know. I don't particularly like the spoiler. Okay, it doesn't offend me too much, but it's really not my cup of tea. I think it's just too much. But I can imagine this would appeal to the younger audience. When I asked BMW whether or not it actually offered any downforce or performance, they weren't really too sure. So let's just say it's an aesthetic thing. But as I say, it's going to appeal to some people, but that's definitely not for me. Carbon fibre bonnet is for me. Everything else that we looked at is right up my street, but that's not. But what is up my street, not particularly in this scheme or colour scheme or paint scheme, is the rear boot. This is not your normal rear boot, and you notice that immediately when you lift it up because it's so light. It is a full carbon fibre boot, okay, apart from the hinges and the locking mechanism. What a piece of kit, look at that. I never knew they did something like this. I mean, that is just, obviously the bonnet, we know they do carbon fibre bonnets for cars like the M3, M4 CS, but this is just so nice. So yeah, for me, get rid of the spoiler and full carbon boot. And again, I wouldn't have this as raw carbon. I think I'd either have the whole thing as raw carbon or the whole thing painted. But that's just amazing, and you've really got to feel it to appreciate it. Further down at the back there, we've got the M Performance carbon fibre splitter, which looks really good. And we've got an M Performance exhaust or back box. I need to do more research about that. This is fast forwarding to me when I realised that this car doesn't in fact have an M Performance exhaust. That is the regular Cowardder M2 Competition exhaust under there and back box. These are actually just tips that go on the end of the existing pipes. They look really, really good, and That's why I was confused to begin with, because from here at least, it looks like a really sexy exhaust. But once you get down low, you realise that they literally do bolt onto the existing cow udder exhaust. Right, let's go back to the walk around. Right, let's jump inside and have a look what is inside the cabin, what's changed inside the cabin. One thing that most of you have probably already noticed is it doesn't have the carbon fibre roof, which is an option. And in fact, my good friend Schmark150 on Instagram, his M2 Competition, I am too cool are the number plates, he has had the carbon fibre roof fitted to his. So that's one accessory that this car doesn't have. And in fact, if you have the boot, the roof and the bonnet fitted, you save about 30 kilos, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot, especially when the weight is fairly high in the car. Right, looking inside the car, aside from the obvious M Performance trims everywhere, we've got a M Performance steering wheel. To me already that looks a little bit fat, but still a very good looking steering wheel. We've got M Performance pedal covers down there, and looking down there we've got some extra carbon fibre on the gear knob, on the gear knob surround. We've got some on the handbrake. We've also got some Alcantara that surrounds the actual gear selector, which is pretty cool. But aside from that, I think everything else is pretty standard in here. So we've got the trims, pedals, steering wheel and some carbon fibre and Alcantara around the centre console. Before we take this car out on the road, I'm just going to dump this camera behind it and fire it up just so you get an idea of what it sounds like. I can't imagine it's going to be as loud as my M2 Competition that's had a lot of the exhaust stripped out, but let's have a listen and then get this car out on the road before it absolutely starts pissing down with rain. Something we didn't talk about on the outside of the car, and in fact something that is probably the biggest upgrade that this car's got that you can't see externally. You could if you had a really keen eye because of the way the wheels are sitting and the slightly extra negative camber on the front wheels. This has actually got the M Performance coilover suspension kit, which is about £2,500 plus fitting, and that is definitely the biggest actual upgrade you can get for this car, in my opinion. Yeah, the weight saving bits do all add up, but a set of real coilover suspension is amazing. And in fact, I've only driven an M2 with some coilovers on before, very briefly, and this car just feels so much better than my car does on stock suspension with slightly stiffer springs, which is no surprise really. I get my springs, my lowering springs fitted to the majority of the cars that I have, just because number one, it makes the car aesthetically look a bit better, and number two, it does drop the centre of gravity a little bit. And no matter what forums and arguments say, if the car is a little bit lower and it doesn't ruin things like spring rate, then it will handle a little bit better because the centre of gravity is a bit lower. The ride is really good. Obviously it's wet outside, there's literally no grip, it's 8 degrees and I can't get any heat into these Cup 2s, so anytime I put my foot on the accelerator it just lights up. so I can't therefore put much load through this car when I'm going through the corners and stuff, but I know that it's going to feel so much better when really pushing on. I'd love to try this setup on a track somewhere with some heat in these Cup 2s. It would be absolutely epic. So that's something that you definitely can't see when we did the walk around, but that is probably one of the biggest fundamental upgrades. I really do appreciate some of the parts on this car, and I think we should run through what parts I would personally have, especially if I had like infinite budget, and what parts I wouldn't have. Now, Again, let's start with the front. I think the splitter just looks fantastic, really does. I know it's not going to be very practical though, and to me practicality is really key, because I go in and out of London occasionally. The roads where I live are horrific, so massive potholes and sharp undulations, and occasionally I'll already drag the splitter on my M2. So having that, although it looks good, it probably wouldn't be for me, because I'd end up tearing it off and probably damaging the front bumper in the process. The wheels, yeah, the wheels, if I had the money again, wow, I absolutely love these wheels. I always have done. They just remind me of an M3 CS, and anything that reminds me of an M3 CS has got to be good. I think they look absolutely fantastic. They really, really suit this car, especially in Hockenheim silver and black. In fact, yeah, you got to see my BMW Adventures pictures. In fact, I'm going to lay one over now. Go and follow him on Instagram. Guy's an absolute legend, and his car just looks epic with these wheels on it. The tyres we kind of talked about already. I'm the biggest Michelin fanboy on the planet. These tyres probably aren't too ideally suited for a middle of January damp day, but they look the piece, or they look the part on these really sexy wheels. What else would I have? Well, I really like the carbon fibre wing mirror or door mirror caps. I think they look fantastic. Might be getting some of them myself very soon. As we move further along the car, I like the side blades that jut out just in front of the rear wheels. I think they really accentuate the back end of this car, and it's already quite a beefy looking sort of, yeah, rear arch, so I love the way that looks. And moving back further, the rear diffuser again looks the part. The exhaust, well, they're just tips, as we found out. So yeah, I mean, they look great. Aesthetics wise, they look much, much better than the standard ones, but they don't really change the sound of the car or the exhaust too much from what I can hear, but they certainly look a hell of a lot better. And I think if you got them and then painted that back box black, like a few people have that I've seen on Instagram, then yeah, it makes the exhaust look a hell of a lot better. Things like the rear boot lid, absolutely epic. What a lovely piece of engineering, what a lovely piece of carbon fibre, and it is so light. You really have to feel it to understand it. They've even changed the little gas struts because the standard ones fire the boot up way too quickly because they're used to a lot heavier boot, so that looks great. And then you've got the rear spoiler, not for me at all. I mean, it might look okay in some pictures, but that's just really not me, especially as, from what I understand, it doesn't do anything to the performance of the car, and to me that's just like a completely pointless exercise, and it's not cheap either, so that's really not for me. What we didn't talk about at the front end was the bonnet. I mean, the bonnet's amazing. Again, it weighs so little, saves so much weight over the front axle. It's just glorious. I can see the lovely carbon fibre dome now, and yeah, that's definitely a bit of me. In terms of what's in the car, steering wheel I don't like just because it's so fat. I really can't get my hands around. I know I talk about this a lot on my channel and people always call me up for it, but how you can drive with a wheel this fat, I really don't know. I've got massive hands and I just can't find a very comfortable purchase on this rim, so maybe that's just me, but yeah, not a fan. Looks great, but not a fan of the way it feels. I much prefer my really thin rim, and I also like the fact that mine's just very basic and round, and there's not too many sort of handholds and stuff on it. This one's got lots of shapes going on, and yeah, it's just not what I'm used to. Not the biggest fan. Pedal covers, well, I've got my AC Schnitzer ones and I absolutely love them. In a DCT car, they're not as important because you're not doing any heel and towing, but they still feel pretty good from where I'm sitting. And all of this carbon, I'm not normally the biggest fan of interior trim, but I think because this is all M Performance stuff, it is exactly the same as the stuff that surrounds it that's stock in an M2 Competition. So I'm not offended offended by that. I actually think it looks really good and it sort of suits the car. Let's summarize this video a little bit. Let's talk about what bits I would have, what bits I probably wouldn't have. Now, there's a mixture of aesthetic or cosmetic parts that M Performance accessories sell, and there are also some performance enhancing ones. No surprise that the top of my list would be this set of coilovers because they just feel great. The car feels so much more expensive and it just deals with all the bumps and stuff on the road so well. And now spending an hour or so in the car, got a little bit of heat in the tyres, and it just feels so good. It really does. It seems a bit more supported in the bends, and it just deals with the UK roads so much better. So I'd love to get one of these out on track, as I said earlier on. Other things that would be top of my list would be the carbon fibre bonnet and the carbon fibre boot. Obviously those two big weight saving components, and they just look fantastic. I don't know if I would even have them just in body colour so that they're super subtle so no one knows, but I think I'll definitely have that, the dome, the bonnet dome in carbon fibre, because it just looks fantastic down there. Then you've got the roof as well that this car doesn't have. But you know, that would be another sort of level that you could go to. But how much money do you spend on a car that's worth 50 grand? Because this one's over 60 grand as it stands. So you've got to be realistic. The other things, cosmetic things, well, I've already got my lovely Remus exhaust, so I wouldn't be interested in the exhaust tips, and I think they're about 1,200 quid, which is halfway to a Remus back box system. So personally, I would steer clear of them and actually get an exhaust fitted. But if you're really worried and mindful about your warranty and stuff, then fitting all these parts are going to keep you in that. So I guess that's the other argument. Finally getting some heat into these Cup 2s. They're finally trying to, or able to, dig into this damp tarmac. It's a problem, or that's the thing with these tyres, is people say they don't work in the wet in this sort of weather. They do. You just need to get some heat in them. Once you've got some heat in them, then they tend to grip. Oh, what a car! What a brilliant. Oh yes, now they're digging in. Now they're digging in. Brilliant, brilliant. What else? Yeah, wing, not for me, and all the other carbon accessory bits on the outside, they look brilliant, they really do, but yeah, again, my money would go on something that kind of enhances the performance of the car, although there's no denying that they do make the M2 Competition look even more menacing and brilliant. I'm going to have prices for pretty much everything in the description below, because I know I haven't really talked much about the individual pricing. Number one, because I don't know off the top of my head, and number two, I thought it would be easier to list below. Now you can obviously get all of these fitted at your local dealer, so inquire with those guys. This is not a paid marketing thing or anything from BMW, as you probably guessed, because I've been pretty fair about how I feel about some of them, some of the accessories. But I just thought, you know what, I was heading down to HQ today to pick up an M5 Competition, which I'm going to have for about 8 days, which is really, really awesome. And they said, you know, do you want to take this out for a few hours? We've got it here, it's nice and clean. Why not? As if I wouldn't. So please make sure you give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and make sure you subscribe for more content like this. Any questions, etc., please leave them below the description, and I'll try my best to get back to you. Until the next video, I'll see you soon. Cheers.